It is 2:15. We had an appointment at 2:15, so thank you for being here. Everybody who's watching, I want to thank you for watching this, whether it be live, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching this on YouTube later, however you're watching this, thanks for watching. This is Success Interviews. My name's Ben Fairfield. I'm the Managing Director for Success Coaching. And with me today, my special guest, Josh Ellis, Editor-in-Chief, Success Magazine. And Josh, you're setting the bar. You're our first episode of this series, number 1. And you're setting the bar really high. I've talked to some people that are going to be on subsequent episodes, and they were not looking forward to having to go after you. So welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. And I appreciate it, Ben. And I know that you had to really pull some strings to get this interview booked. So congratulations on that. My name is Josh Ellis. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Success Magazine. Been in this post for a little over 5 years. Been with Success for 8, and it's what I do every day. I get to get to know the coaches and the thought leaders in the industry of personal development, and really am sort of at the crux of defining what this genre is for today, and hopefully we'll be able to have an impact in the way that it affects people's lives positively in the future.
Absolutely. And now we've worked together for all of about 4 days. But I talked to you before I came into this role, and I sensed your passion for what success is, for impacting people. And that's why you, in my opinion, were the obvious choice to have on as our first guest here. So in terms of success, now I've got some questions I want to ask you, but in terms of success, you are in a position where you get to speak to some of the world's thought leaders on leadership, entrepreneurship, success in general, just amazing people. And in fact, I saw you did an Instagram live with somebody that most people probably don't know who it is recently. That was this last week, I think?
Oh yeah, last week we happened to have on Tuesday, the 2nd, was our newest issue, hit newsstands. And so I got to interview the cover guy, Damon John. You know him from Shark Tank, of course, founder of FUBU, and really inspirational entrepreneur, and a guy who is a mentor, especially for people of color, Black Americans really look up to, because as he said during that interview, there's just not many people that they see in the media like him, entrepreneurs of color who weren't involved in the music industry or athletes, but someone who basically just had an idea for a business, which is going to be the journey for so many people in entrepreneurship, is not building it on fame or anything like that, and just having to grind and hustle his way to the top. So Damon John is just the latest, and I've been incredibly fortunate to get to at the very least introduced to most of our cover people over the last few years, and I've gotten to host some podcasts and write some stories during my time here, to where I really got to brush up against some people who can make you think and give a lot of perspective for what life and what career growth, entrepreneurial growth is all about.
That's so awesome. Well, and I want to get to that in one of my questions here. I want to talk specifically about some of the people that you've had the ability to work with, but ultimately, I want to start first because you're in that space. You're meeting with these people. You can't help but have that rub off on you, right? And so you're gleaning nuggets and pearls of wisdom and stuff. And I loved what you did with Damon, because he's just such a humble, down-to-earth guy still, which is refreshing and so cool. But how does somebody find those conversations, those nuggets? How do they follow you or find where that information is going to be so that they can learn from it as well?
Well, of course, all of our social channels are a great spot. We're on Facebook Live right now, right? So, of course, Success Magazine on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and there's a YouTube channel and all that good stuff. Would definitely encourage people to get involved with our new social network that right now, it's just sort of in a soft launch phase. We are going to be rolling it out to bigger audiences as 2021 rolls along, but we're trying to kind of seed it with influencers, people who are, a little bit ahead of the curve. And so you can go to dreambuilders.com That's sort of a workshop name. We'll see. It's going to be something along the lines of Success Network, Success Community. Just get there early, and you'll be there for. You can say you were there when it was dreambuilders.com, but get in there, and we're building a community of like-minded people who, are all about influence and driving value for one another and encouraging one another. And it's meant to be a social network that's not like any of the other social networks that, tend to drag us all down. Success for 124 years now, going back to when the magazine was founded, has been about building people up. And so, of course, that's what we want to do on our social network, dreambuilders.com. I also want people to visit successworlddownload.com and check out another really cool toy that we have been working on, where you'll get to kind of interact and be involved in live events with our staff on a daily basis. So dreambuilders.com, successworlddownload.com. There's nothing else like it anywhere in this landscape, or I would say on the internet.
I love it. And that's where our offices are. So they might run into us in the hallway if they happen to come check it out. So that's awesome. So, all right, into the meat. So I hope you're ready. I'm going to grill you with questions, but we're going to move quick because I know these people have stuff to do. Yet there's tons of information we can share with them.
Sure,
so
let's go for it.
Knowing that you have interviewed all these people, you've had the opportunity to really get to know some people that most people just see on the magazine cover, and you're getting to have conversations with a lot of these people. Have you seen any common traits or characteristics or any kind of theme that runs between all of these people or a lot of these people that are successful, that are being covered by Success Magazine? Like, what stands out to you that kind of shows up similarly most times?
I would say there is an abundance mindset where they feel like there's even though some of them are, an outsider might look at what we do and what they do as competitive. They understand that there is plenty to go around and that we can help one another. And so when they approach interviews with Success Magazine or with our different podcasts that we've had over the years, just involvement with our brand, they think of it as ways that we can come together and bring value to one another's audiences and one another individually to grow in that way. And there have been some others who, whether they were coaches, thought leaders, what have you, who have approached those sorts of engagements with a little more resource guarding, where they're trying to make sure that they get as many plugs for their new book in the allotted time, or they make sure that they are sufficiently self-promotional because they're afraid that they won't ever get this opportunity again. And more often than not, that's how it works. We come together with authors and business leaders because we want to drive value to our audience. And so when you approach it with that sort of giving abundance mindset, there's a lot more room for partnership.
I love that. Well, and I was having this conversation with a coaching client this morning, actually driving to the office. The abundance mindset, and we've not talked about this. I did not know that's what you're going to say, for everyone watching that's thinking this is rigged. It's not. And I literally had this conversation this morning, and I don't think we can skip past this. This is at the bedrock of every successful person that you see in this world. They have the mindset of abundance, meaning it's not, I have to take what I can get because there's only so much to get. It's, I'm going to give as much as I can because there's plenty for all of us. And I think that's such a critical distinction, especially in today's environment, today's world, with all the stuff going on. They're looking around themselves and looking where they can give. Where, like Damon said it multiple times in different ways in your interview with him, he wants to give back. He's got foundations set up and he's doing so much that he doesn't have to do, that he's not getting paid to do. It's costing him time and money to do, but that's how he's wired at his core. And one other thought, and then I'll go to my next one. But I was talking with Glenn Sanford, is the CEO of EXP Realty, the founder. He also is the owner of Success Enterprises, which owns the magazine and Success Coaching and our worlds that we work in together. But we were having a conversation, and he mentioned the fact that Tony Robbins. Now, Tony's been on the cover how many times? I'm putting you on the spot, but
4 so far, and we'll see. We'll see later this year. Might have a little surprise there, but
well, so 4. Like, here's a guy that's at the pinnacle of success. He's been on the cover of the magazine Success 4 times, and what Glenn's told me is that Tony still has the first issue that he was on the cover, framed in his house, prominently displayed, because he doesn't forget where he came from. Like, he remembers what that was like. He remembers the work it took, but they haven't lost sight of the fact that they're still real people just like us, right? And I love that, and it was so refreshing to hear that. Anything else or any thoughts on that?
Well, I was trying to be a little sly there. Last week I interviewed Damon John on Tuesday and Tony Robbins on Friday. And so it was very interesting to hear Tony always, in any interview I've done with him, he always references, very formative years for him when he was 16, 17, didn't have a lot of money. The family, was pretty broke, and even into his early 20s as he was starting to figure out what he wanted to become. He always goes back to that. And yeah, it's an old, it's a Zig Ziglar line. You'll get all that you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. So that's what the abundance mindset is to me. And I think that all the best in our industry bring it every day.
So awesome. So, and such a timely point in our world and in our conversation today to bring that up. That's awesome. All right, here's the next one. So out of all these people you've talked to, interviewed, featured, now it's a human condition that we're going to have preconceived notions going into it. We're probably going to think people are going to show up a certain way, and then we're probably surprised. So out of all of those people, who surprised you the most compared to how they actually showed up versus maybe how you thought they would?
What's been interesting during my time here is getting to know all the people who were not, inherently members of this field. They're not coaches. They're not personal development authors. They don't even really think about it that much, and yet they still might have really insightful things to say. So I've interviewed people like Alan Alda, who is an amazing, ideator on just the subject of communication. The old actor from MASH. One of the funny ones we have an old podcast that you can find called Success Talks. It's still up on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff, and you can go listen to these old episodes. I had a conversation one time with Guy Fieri, the chef, the spiky haired guy. Sure. From Food Network. And he has, as many deep, thoughtful things to say as like Brendan Burchard or any of the most, well-known and respected coaches in the industry. There's people come at these things from so many different angles. I will say that my favorite person to interview, and I've gotten to do it a few times over the years, is a guy named Dan Buettner. And he's a former National Geographic Explorer of the Year. He's a researcher, and you might have heard of a couple of his books called, the first one was a bestseller, Blue Zones, where he was going around the world to these areas in Icaria, this island off of Greece, and Costa Rica and Okinawa. There's a few of them scattered around that have the highest concentration of people who live to be centenarians, 100 years old or older. And there was a follow-up book called The Blue Zones of Happiness. And what he really studies is like the intersection of health, how these people are creating this longevity in their life, because it really doesn't end up having much to do, as much as you might think, with like diet or exercise or whatever, but it has so much more to do with happiness and purpose. And so with success, we have always over the years, tried to make the point that, one, you define success for yourself, but ultimately it's much more than money. Our magazine is on the newsstand next to Forbes and Money Magazine and things like that. But I think that that there's a lot more to the idea of success than that. It's happiness, it's health, it's a feeling that you're growing and developing every day, and it's living with purpose. And so I love interviewing that guy, Dan Buettner, because he has crystallized the ways that bringing it all together in this sort of intersection of a successful life really does have rewards for people in terms of not only longevity and their happiness scores that they report, but wealth as well.
That's awesome. Now you just made me buy. If you couldn't tell, I like books. So I'm going to add one to the collection, or two now, based on what you just said. So kind of a soft transition from books. So I posted on my Instagram last night. And if you guys aren't connected with me on Instagram, please go over there. It's at Ben Fairfield. But I posted this last night, and it's a picture of my journal, right? And I always have these with me, Every year I have these with me. It's something I've seen a trend with successful people that I've been able to interview and study. My question for you is, do you keep a journal? And we've not talked about this before, so I'm putting you on the spot.
I have at different times. I'm between one right now, between journals. We've got a little girl who's going to be 1 next week. And so a lot of my most positive habits have been sacrificed for the time being until,
I used to have hobbies too.
Until hopefully she's a little bit more self-sufficient. But yeah, that's taken up quite a bit of time. Not journaling at the moment.
Okay. So when you did, then we'll get off the journaling topic, but when you did, what was the style? Because I get asked that all the time, and I know people are just curious. Some people treat it as a diary. Some people keep it as an idea vault. Some people journal ups and downs and progress towards things. What have you used as far as journaling technique?
Well, it's embarrassing to say, but I use just the Notes app on my phone. One, because I always have it with me. And I've found that if I had a physical paper journal somewhere, it would be very easy for me to just not have it with me, or make some other excuse. It's in the other room. Right. So yeah, the Notes app on my phone, and I do keep ideas in there, to-do lists for the next day, sort of prioritize that sort of thing. And great quotes and just little bits of wisdom that I come across, things that I want to integrate into the magazine.
That's awesome. Well, I heard a quote a long time ago: the best system is the one that you'll use. So it doesn't matter whether it's an analog journal or the Notes app on your phone. It really doesn't matter. It's all in if you use it. So that's awesome. All right. You ready for the next one?
Let's do it.
We're moving. We're making, look at all these people on here are happy with our pace right now. All right, here's the next one. So this one, this comes up a lot when I'm coaching people. And again, you have not been like overly prepared here. So I really want to get your just raw reaction to this. But what we know is people go through seasons of flatlining mentally. And I don't mean dead. I mean stagnation. I mean maybe complacency. Like we just get into a rut is another term that we hear a lot in the coaching space, when clients just have that feeling that they're stuck. So my question for you is, knowing that you're human, A, do you experience that from time to time? I'm assuming I know the answer, but I want to ask. And B, if you do, what have you learned in talking to these people and just your own life experience? How do you snap yourself out of that? Because I think we're in a season for a lot of people where it's easy to fall into that.
Yeah, it's definitely, I've had experiences where I've felt like I was going through the motions in life and letting, certain standards of how I live my life sort of lax. And journaling is one way to keep track of it, because you can kind of look back and see, maybe depending on how you're tracking your actions and stuff, how things have slipped. But so I'm an only child, and when you're an only child, you either one, like talk to yourself a lot, or two, you just find yourself deep in thought, because you just have to find ways to entertain yourself. So it's like zoned out, thinking about things that are frankly deeper than a lot of people maybe get every day. And so from a very early age, I remember, coming to my dad with questions that I had cooked up like in my 8-year-old brain, about like, what is the point of all this? Why are we here? Like, why is the universe exist? And so, I will say that for people, if they have a religious tradition, then I think that it's important in those times of being in a rut to remember that in your faith you were brought here by the creator of the universe, and so you would assume that he or she or it has big plans for you that it's really your responsibility to live out. And if you're not a religious person, I think you could make a case that it's the opportunity that you've been given is every bit as magnificent, just based on the trillions upon trillions upon quadrillions of atom collisions that had to lead up to one, life on Earth, two, your parents bumping into one another at a bar and having you eventually one day. So the opportunity that we're blessed with to be alive, no matter how you look at existence or whatever, is really a ridiculous one that we all owe it to ourselves to make the most of. And so sometimes you have to just be reminded of that and snap out of it and get going on pursuing the next big goal, or getting some of those bad habits that have started to form out of the way so that you can live more toward your purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So sounds like a mutual friend. Tony Robbins is famous for teaching the pattern interrupt concept. I'm not going to go in depth here, but if I'm coaching somebody and they're in a rut, it takes a pattern interrupt. We have to shock the system to get them out of that rut and up on top of the surface and going a different direction, right? So if anybody's watching and they're in a rut like that, what we've found, and I'm just as guilty of this as anybody because we're all human, what I found is when I feel down and I'm in a rut of that sense, I'm focusing on me instead of those around me. And this goes back to your first statement about abundance mindset. When I shift my focus away from me and my circumstances and my situation, good or bad, and I start focusing on others, what does it naturally do to my countenance, to your countenance, to everybody's? It naturally raises it up. So when I stop focusing on self, when I become more selfless and start focusing on others, no matter what I'm going through, it always raises me up out of that rut. It's not foolproof. It's not easy. It's not without hard work. But practically speaking, just to give you guys a little bit of a tip, if you don't have a coach in your life, just simply start focusing on how you can help those around you. And it's amazing how that will change your state.
Yeah, we tend to go the extra mile for other people in ways that we wouldn't for ourselves. You think about like showing up on time. You'll do it for other people, but you don't even think about that when no one's waiting on you, right? It's just it's just you, and you'll allow yourself to let yourself down, but you won't do it for other people. So think about those people who are affected by your actions every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So a couple more before we wrap up here, but there's a couple of good ones I want to get your take on. So John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors. You can see I've read this a few times. Good Leaders Ask Great Questions, not a plug for the book, but it comes from there. So I just want to give credit where credit's due. He says this, and I want to get your take on this. He said, a dream is something you really want to do, but a calling, that's something you have to do. So Josh Ellis, editor of Success Magazine, editor-in-chief, the big cheese. I want to know, what is your calling in life, and how do you know that you are or are not living in that calling?
Well, I think a calling can change over time. In my work life, it's to serve and bring as much value to our audience and our readers so that they can multiply the positive lessons that I've passed on to all the people in their lives and their communities. But I mentioned I'm a new dad, and frankly, it's become really overnight about a year ago my calling, what I would say is my calling. And I appreciate John Maxwell's thoughts there. I've been the editor on his column in the magazine for quite a while. And, I every day I approach my life in just questioning whether I'm being a good example to my little girl. If I'm, building a life that's going to, as she gets a little better picture of what's going on around her, if it's going to make her proud. If I'm teaching her to be successful so that she, like our readers, like our audience, can have a positive impact on other people. I think that the way that our actions help other people to do their best work is how we can, have meaning on this planet and this species that echoes way after we're gone.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is impact. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
And you're definitely having one. And it may not be a simple definition of that word, but you're definitely impacting people around you, and we're grateful that you're doing it. And that's an important calling, even if it's a part of your calling. So kudos to you for stepping into that. Now, last real question before we go into the lightning round to take us out here. Last full question, bite-sized chunk, 90 seconds or less. What does your typical daily routine look like?
We get the baby up as late as possible, let her sleep in. And then usually, we get her ready. She goes to daycare, meetings in the morning, got pretty standard meeting schedule up through about 10 my time. Project work after that where I can. That could be just editing a story for the magazine. It could be sending 10,000 emails, which it seems like sometimes. If I can find an hour on my schedule during the day that's open, I'll try to slip a workout in there, and definitely recommend folks to go ahead and, if you have that hour, block it out before it gets taken. Because people won't be upset with you if you tell them, oh, that's when my workout is. They just accept it. And, at the end of the day, I definitely make time to spend with the little girl, play with her. I like to cook. So I do most of the cooking here. We do like we're doing purple carrot right now, but the boxed, they send all the ingredients and the recipe and stuff like that. So that's great time for me to listen to a podcast or like a book on Audible, put the baby to bed and just kind of unwind and reconnect with my wife or do any additional work that needs to be done before hitting the sack around 10.
Yeah, I've seen some of those late night emails. All right. Lightning round, fast answers. I'm going to move through them quickly. You perfectly segued without knowing it. What podcast are you listening to right now?
Well, a few off and on. I'm always listening to Stuff You Should Know, which is it's just random knowledge, like trivia, and they'll spend 45 minutes or an hour on some subject that you wished you knew more about. Sometimes it might be Mexican wrestling. Sometimes it might be, a history lesson. But I have a wandering mind, so it's great to just fill it with sometimes useless knowledge that you never know. It might end up useless down the road.
That's awesome. All right. What book are you reading right now, or did you recently read?
The Whole Brain Child, which came highly recommended. So it's for kids or for parents, but there's a lot of interesting concepts in there about that are applicable to leadership and appealing to people, not only on an intellectual level, like with our work. We tend to, just try to be pragmatic and try and bring people into our level of thinking. But there's just in the way that we deal with our kids, where they are so emotional that you have to connect with them on that level first. I think in leadership and sales, we have to bring emotion to the table there too.
It's an important component if we're going to build rapport and connect with people, right? All right. Next one and last one here before we have our parting thoughts. We're talking a year from today, you and I, 2022. I want to hear, where is Success Magazine? We've got new ownership, tons of energy, so much exciting stuff that we can't yet share with these guys, but we will in time. what's your vision for the magazine? Where will it be a year from now?
You know, a year from now, we want it to be a community. Right now, it's a media platform that sends stuff out into the world. And within a year, with things like that dreambuilders.com, with things like Success World, which you can get at successworlddownload.com, we want it to just be a hub where people congregate, like-minded people who want to lift one another up, want to share their experiences, their wisdom, want to mentor one another. We want them to come to us. We want to be the place where that happens. And so I encourage everybody to get on board now.
That's awesome. All right. So if they want to come hang out with us and see us, maybe attend some trainings that we do, because we're going to bring lots of content, and we're all going to do it in the Success World. We've got a big auditorium there. So if they wanted to download that, can you just give them that URL one more time?
Successworlddownload.com. No dashes, no underscores. Successworlddownload.com.
I love it. I love it. All right. Josh Ellis, Editor-in-Chief, Success Magazine. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you for taking time out of your crazy, crazy busy schedule to share some of the knowledge you've learned over the course of your time. And if you guys haven't yet subscribed to Success Magazine, you absolutely need to check it out. Come hang out with us. We're building a coaching company. We're building the magazine into a community, and there's so much good stuff coming. You're going to want to be on the newsletter so you're notified in real time of what's happening. So Josh, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.